get started up. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome today. I'm Brenda Cito, and on behalf of the WFIM board, I'm so happy to have this event on International Women's Day. Today, we celebrate our inner awesomeness. So woohoo, we are all awesome. And Vanessa's going to show us how awesome we are. And we will prepare to share that awesomeness to the world every day, even in this virtual world while we're experiencing these crazy times we're having. Before we get started, I need to get a few housekeeping tips out of the way. Be sure to mute yourselves. You can ask questions in the chat. We'll do our best to get to the questions during the session. Otherwise, we'll send them along with the recording, which will be sent out this week. Is that okay with you, Vanessa? Yeah. Or do you want the questions handled throughout?
I'm also going to stay at the end
for
a while, and I'm happy to stay until every question's answered.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
I'll be at the end to answer.
Okay. Now I got to see if Dr. Lisa Salomon's here. Lisa, are you here? Maybe she isn't. Anyways, she's the chair for the OMA District 11, which represents the GTA doctors, and she's an ER physician, and she's been with us on this journey since the pandemic, and we've had virtual events, and we've been supporting them with health and wellness, with proceeds coming from our events. So she was going to try to make it. I know that she had some, like, just to say a few words. So I don't know if she's there or not. And if not, then we'll just, I guess we can get started with you, Vanessa. She might have had an emergency. She literally was at the hospital. Anyways, but she always gives us the latest and greatest on what's going on. And I think they were starting the vaccine, the clinic, and she's the lead doctor on it. Anyways, so without further ado, I am going to introduce you, Vanessa, if that's all right with you. You have been on our stage, as you said, 3 times, and we always learn something new and amazing from you. And today is no different. You are going to lead us and show us what we can do to stand out as leaders on the virtual stage. So without further ado, please join me in having a warm welcome to Vanessa Judelman. Okay.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited. As Brenda said, this is my 3rd time celebrating International Women's Day with Women in Food Industry Management. And it's always one of my favorite events of the year, just because of the amazing group of women that you have within your community. Always so passionate and smart and caring and empathetic. And I love spending time with you, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you again today. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the volunteers like Brenda who put in so many hours of work to make this happen. So I know you're all volunteer run. So yeah, exactly. I like those who are clapping for our volunteers. All right, y'all, let's get into the content. Can you see my slides okay? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, terrific. So this was 2020. Yes, it was like a roller coaster ride. Ironically, this roller coaster is called Wonder Woman. So I thought it was appropriate. They had all of these roller coasters named after superheroes who were male. So they built this one called the Wonder Woman roller coaster. But last year was a roller coaster. It was a lot of ups and downs. It was a lot of emotions. And I feel like, I don't know if you feel like this, we're still kind of in the muck, but I feel like we've turned the page. I feel like we've all climbed up that mountain and we're at the top now. We may slip down a little bit, but we've learned so much from last year. I'm feeling hopeful now. I'm feeling, last year, I didn't really focus on my self-care very much until 2020 hit, and I was literally grounded. I don't know about you all, but it was a year of developing and building resilience. It was a year of really understanding, wow, I need to take care of myself as a mom, as a professional, as a woman, and I learned to do that. It was also a year of tremendously shifting so many paradigms and really looking at things that weren't working. The way we were working was not working. And we're going to talk a little bit today about some of those shifting paradigms that became so apparent in 2020. And because last year was so challenging, and I'm not saying this year isn't challenging, we still do have a lot of challenges, but I really firmly believe from challenge comes change. And I want you to all think about a situation in your life that was challenging. Okay. So that really produced great change for you. A couple examples come to mind for me. One was years ago when I had a terrible boss who literally made my life miserable. And I came into work every single day, and I never knew when she'd yell at me. I never knew when I'd be chastised in front of peers. It was really challenging. But from that challenge, I actually got the courage to leave that company, start my own business, leave. I had a secure job with a paycheck coming in and a pension, y'all. And I left that to start my own business. So had I not had that very challenging boss, it would not have been the impetus to change. Right. And I think all of us can relate to March 15th. Last year, I was supposed to be in Miami with my family for March break. We all know that didn't happen. Right. When my husband and I are both self-employed. Right. We had 3 months literally with no income. And from that, my husband and I both reinvented our businesses, like all of you reinvented so much. So that's why I feel so hopeful and optimistic now, because I think from all the challenge that we went through last year, we can now embrace change and fight for change. This is actually the theme for International Women's Day, as is hashtag choose to challenge. And I absolutely love that. This is from their website, internationalwomensday.com. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what this choose to challenge means for us as women, and there may be some men joining us too. So this is a quote again from their website. I'm going to just pause a minute and give you a second to read this quote.
I haven't had time to enjoy this. I gotta like catch up on.
Oh, somebody needs to put themselves on mute, please. Thank you. So a challenged world is an alert world. I love that. So we're going to talk about today, what does that mean to be responsible for your own thoughts and actions? I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. We're going to talk about choosing to challenge. What do you need to call out right now? What's not working in your life? This is part of International Women's Day, is putting on a different hat and choosing to challenge. So we're challenging the status quo, right? We're doing it every single day. We did it in 2020. We're going to continue to do it with our votes, with our voices. We're speaking up in ways that we never spoke up before. We're challenging with our feet. We're leaving jobs that don't support us. We're challenging bosses who are not supporting us, right? We're walking into restaurants that are female driven or run by people of color. We're supporting them with our money, right? And I think especially as women, we're supporting each other. Gone are the days where we call other women bitches. Like, who does that anymore? If I work with a woman who's challenging, I think she's a human being. Maybe her work style's differently. I would never do that, name call another woman, right? We need to support each other. If somebody has a work style that's different than mine, I challenge her work style. I don't challenge her gender. So these are ways that we're really thinking differently and choosing to challenge in a different way. Again, if anybody is really social media savvy, you can strike the choose to challenge pose and pop it on social media. I think this is just another really fun way to get involved in International Women's Day. These are pictures that I actually got from their website, and they're all over social media as well, which I think is super, super fun. And it really encourages everybody to commit to helping forge this inclusive world that we all envision for our future. So that's something really fun. I like the guy. Can you guys see his t-shirt? It says, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made." And it's got Ruth Bader Ginsburg on it. So I just love that. Super cool. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share here for a minute, and I'm going to go into a really cute video, and I'm going to share this video with all of you. Okay, what I'd like you all to do is pop into the chat and type out how you feel watching that video. Inspired, awesome, proud. I get teary, y'all. Uplifted, yes, exactly. I've watched that now about 4 times, and every time I get super, super teary. Yes, yes, the women are coming. It's so, 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 so exciting. Amazing. Grateful. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Richard. Emotional, motivated. Yeah. So every year I like to share a different book with you all. Written by a woman about how to really take our own personal power back as women. And for those of you who have daughters, I think this would be a great book to share as well. Do you all know Abby Wambach? She's an Olympic soccer player. She's a gold medalist. She is so kick-ass. I love Abby Wambach. I'm going to share with you 4 of the key themes in this book. But basically what she talks about in Wolfpack is reclaiming, when we talk about Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf, she flips that whole story around and talks about us as women being the wolf, right? Why do we need to be the little person who's hiding and running away? Why can't we be the powerful character in the book? And so what she talks about is that there's old paradigms in the old world. And one of them is as women need to stay on the path. But the new rule that Abby talks about is we don't need to stay on any path. We need to create our own path. And the most interesting thing about 2020 is if you look at the statistics, how many women who lost jobs have actually started their own business. And there's a lot of data around the amount of businesses by women that are just increasing and increasing. Whether you work in an organization or run your own business, create your own path, right? Think about what is the life that I want to have, and it's up to you to create it. There's no path anymore for women. It's really about creating your own path. So this is a really interesting one. You may say, well, what's old about being grateful? Like, I'm super grateful. I have my health. I have a good job. I have, I work in an industry that I'm passionate about. But the thing is, there's more. It is 1, being grateful for what I have, but 2, dial it up, everybody. It's about demanding what you deserve. Okay? Status quo sometimes is not enough. So it's not just, I am grateful. I heard an interview with a woman recently who worked in the entertainment industry, and she worked for someone who's fairly famous and supported this fairly famous person. And she always had this vision that she wanted to be a producer. But because she was supporting this person, this famous person, for so long as an executive assistant, she was just so grateful for the job and the opportunity and the exposure that she squashed her dream to be a producer. And one day this young man came into the business, and he started a similar role than she did and moved up and up and up and up within the organization, and she stayed in the same position. So she said to herself, while I'm super grateful for this amazing position I have, she realized by being overly loyal, she was not demanding for what she was in her own life. And that's what this new rule is about. Yes, gratitude, and yes, asking for what you deserve. Okay, we already talked about this a little bit, where women used to be against each other. We're for each other now. We don't gossip about each other now. We support each other. We build each other up. And then finally, leading with dominance. So as you know, I'm a leadership coach, a consultant, leadership trainer, facilitator. And so I do not believe in sort of the old world of work where we were taught to lead with dominance, right? The new world of work, we lead with humanity. We lead with our heart. We combine our head and our heart. We lead with empathy. We lead with compassion. The old paradigm, interestingly enough, was as a leader, I want to develop followership. The new paradigm is as a leader, I want to develop other leaders. My goal as a leader is not to develop people to follow me. my goal as a leader is to develop leaders to develop other leaders who stand up for themselves, who think for themselves, who solve their own problems. So those are just 4 of the paradigm shifts that Abby talks about in her book that I absolutely love and thought would be terrific to share with you today. So y'all ready to kick some butt now? Let's focus on those 4 rules and get in there. No more excuses anymore, okay? This year, I want all of you to be the best version of yourself, okay? I often get questions from people, you know, Vanessa, what kind of leader should I be? And I say, you know, what like trait should I have? I say, you should be yourself. You want to know what you should look like as a leader? You be the best version of yourself. Know what your strengths are. Know what your weaknesses are. Work on mitigating some of those weaknesses. Work on really dialing up some of your strengths at work. I spoke to a client this morning who I coach, who's the CEO of a business. Very successful, terrific growing business. He has an issue, as we all do. This is someone who's very dominant, very dynamic. But one of his issues is when he gets frustrated, everybody around him knows he's frustrated. And I said to him, I said, let me ask you this question. What is the impact of you showing your frustration like that to the people around you? And he paused. And he paused for a long time. And I let him sit with that question. And eventually he said, I think it's mitigating my trust with them. And he said, you're absolutely right. So for all of you, it's really thinking about, what does it mean for me to be the best version of myself? For him to be the best version of himself, it's really dialing down that frustration and dialing up his patience. Okay, so let's move into tools. So the focus for today is leading in that virtual environment. So I'm going to share with you some really practical and tangible tools that you can do that, of how you can do that. So how to stand up, that's our topic for today. We're going to do some interactive stuff together now. There's 3 things that I want to share with you today. One is, how do I create openness and experimentation? The reason that word experimentation is so important right now is because there's so many I don't knows. There's so many we've never done this before. So even though we're a year into working from home, virtual leadership, isolation, working in a pandemic, all of those things, there's still so many things that we don't know how to do that we're doing for the first time. So to come to leadership with that openness, that growth mindset, that concept of experimenting with things and seeing what works and doesn't is really important. We're going to talk about what it means to be empathetic and why patience is critical right now. And then I'm going to share with you, we all know deepening trust in relationships is important, but right now as a leader, deepening trust in all of your relationships has become critically important, especially when you're working virtually. So I'm going to unpack that with you. And I'm actually going to share with you 13 tangible behaviors that you can start implementing to build trust. Okay, so let's start with the first one, creating openness and experimentation. So rule number 1, you do not need to have all the answers. Anybody relieved to hear that? Okay, so what do I mean by that? I often hear from leaders that they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, that they think that every problem that comes up within their team, within their department, within their organization, they need to solve on their own. You don't. You don't need to have the answers. What you need to have are the questions. And I'm going to show you how you take these things you're worried about, put them into questions, and start solving problems with your team. Okay, so everybody grab a pen if you have a pen handy. And what I want you to do is just jot down like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things that you're struggling with right now. You're even welcome to even pop it in the chat. So what are some things that you're struggling with as a virtual leader right now? What are you noodling? So the examples I have below are, Vanessa, I'm really struggling to engage my team virtually. Like I still haven't figured this out. I'm worried. Our meetings, nobody's engaged, and I seem to be talking all the time and not getting their input. Or how do I actually hold people accountable in team meetings? So everybody jot something down. And if you'd like to pop it into the chat, you're welcome to do that too. Okay, so does everybody have an idea? of one or two things you're struggling with. Okay. All right, so let's see. So here's what we do. So what you do is you use the concept of a how-to statement. So if you look at one of the things you've written down, I want you to put a how-to in front of it. Oh, great, we have a terrific one in the chat. How to support mental health of our teams. Yeah, absolutely. So you don't need to figure that out on your own. You're going to ask your team how to do that. So take that statement you've just written down and put it in a how-to statement. The one that I have here is how to create more of an engaging virtual environment. Okay. And then what you do, and I'm going to show you how to then whiteboard it with your team. Okay. So I don't know if you all know, but in Zoom, you can actually, I'm in a PowerPoint presentation. So what I've done is I've written this line at the top of my PowerPoint. You can either go into Zoom and use the whiteboard, or you can actually whiteboard right on your PowerPoint slide. So this is, I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. So if you all go into, you can't do this, I don't think, if you're on a phone, but definitely if you're on your laptop or your desktop, or probably even your iPad, go to the top of the toolbar where it says viewing Vanessa's screen. Okay. And then I want you to select view options, annotate, and you're going to click on the text button. Okay. Did everybody manage to do that? Okay. And now what you're going to do is I'm going to go back. So view Vanessa's screen, view options, annotate, and click text. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back a slide here. And I want you to literally grab the text tool and type your answer on this whiteboard here. How to create a more engaging virtual environment. What's your idea? Everybody pop one idea on the whiteboard. Let's see what you can come up with. Having cameras on, 100%. Ah, same thing, okay? What else can we do? I think you should clarify your expectation with your team around that if you want them to have cameras on. Polls, make it interactive. Yes, and I'm going to show you more ways today of how to make it interactive, like this activity that we're doing right now. Participants bring ideas to the meeting. Yes, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. You can engage participation by your team. Breakout rooms and larger group sessions. Yep. Preparing for the meeting, encouraging gallery views, using props. So that's fun. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's take 10 more seconds if anyone else has any other ideas. Use this tool. Yeah, I'm going to show you a bunch of tools. Exactly. That's why I'm actually making this interactive today, because I want you to use the tools that I'm sharing with you. That's why I'm sharing them with you. Respect the time limit on meetings. Yes, having an agenda and sticking to it, 100%. Okay, terrific. So I'm going to clear this for now. And that's the first tool that you actually have in your toolkit already. Okay, terrific. Thank you for the interaction. Can you guys see the slides? No, just me. Okay, let's see what's going on with the slides here. How about now? All right, terrific. Okay, so rule number one. Rule number two, ask what questions. Okay, to create that openness and experimentation, get really curious with your team. The best way to get curious is to ask questions that start with the word what. Okay, so here's another thing. Team, what can we do to create that an engaging virtual environment? Again, put that on the whiteboard, get them to put it in the chat. And I'm going to show you, if we use this, some tools on how to get answers. Okay, so anything that you're noodling, you can turn into a how statement or you can turn into a what question. What can I do to better support you, team? So let's get your what question in the chat. What are you noodling right now? What are you noodling right now? What's your what question that you want to ask your team? So if you have a leader who's not using some of these engagement strategies, what you could do is also maybe ask, say, you know, I participated, somebody asked me in the chat this question. I participated in this webinar. I use these interactive, learned some of these interactive tools. Would it be okay if I chaired the meeting next time and shared with the whole team some of these tools that we could use? So this is about you. Remember, we talked about challenging to get change. So this works up too. Okay, if you have a leader who's not leveraging some of these tools, then it's really about saying, hey, I learned these tools. How would you feel if I took 5 minutes in our next meeting and shared some of them with the team? Okay, so really starting to ask your team some of those what questions is going to be really, really important. Oh, I like that, Carol. What would it take for you to consistently show up? That's a great coaching question. What are some ways to break the work from home monotony? You don't need to know the answer. You may be certainly wondering the question, but you don't know the answer to that. So the other thing that I wanted to mention to you is there's two kinds of coaching. There's formal and informal coaching. So formal coaching are those meetings that you book with people and you create a time and you create an agenda. Ask them what questions. Hey, everybody, what's on your plate? What are your priorities? What do you need my help with? You can ask them in a text. Ask some of those what questions as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go through a list of other engagement strategies that you can use. So one of my key engagement strategies for you all is ask, don't tell. So ask your what questions, ask your how-to statements, ask people to put their answers in the chat. Say to everybody, what's an engagement strategy that we all want to focus on? Put your answers in the chat. Do that with your team. You can get people to share popcorn style. So what that means is you can say, okay, everybody, we're focusing on what support do you need to implement training we provide? Okay, and who wants to start? And just wait. So someone on your team is gonna give you a suggestion. Say, okay, who else has a suggestion? Okay, and someone else on your team. So that's called sharing popcorn style. The other way that we can share is one at a time. You can even send out an email in advance and say, we're going to be spending 5 minutes in our team meeting talking about what are some ways to break the work from home monotony, everybody. So I'm expecting you to share an answer, or please do some brainstorming before the meeting, and I'd love to hear your answer. Then you get everybody to share one at a time. You can say, based on who came up first on my screen, my Zoom screen, that's the order in which we're going to share. Okay. I also really like the idea of, even in your meeting, giving people a minute to write their answers and then share. So you could say, okay, what are ways to break the work from home monotony? Okay, everybody, just take a minute. And I want you to just write down the first idea that comes to mind. You can even put some music in the background, get them into their right brain, get the juices flowing a little bit. And then share. And this also gives people a chance, not everybody on your team is able to think on their feet. So for people who need a little more time to think through their answer, it gives them time to do that. Okay. The whiteboard, or the example that I just showed you on a PowerPoint, where you can use the annotate tool and text tool. Okay. The other way you can interact with your team is create documents with them. Okay, let's say you want new operating principles after today. You're like, you know what? I want this new interactive team meeting thing happening. I am just done with these team meetings being not interactive and me talking all the time. So create your operating principles with your team. Build ownership with them. Say, team, I want from now on, our meetings are going to be engaging. let's create those operating principles together. Okay, and then use some of the suggestions from the last page on how to do that. I'm going to come back to thumbs down and thumbs up and fist to 5. And you could also do a poll, which I'm sure a lot of you have participated in before. Okay, I'm going to stop my screen for share for a minute. And I want to show you how you do the thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, so if you did watch the Oprah interview with Harry and Meghan last night, give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give me a thumbs down. Who watched it? Who didn't? Okay. So that just gives you a pulse check. So you can do that with any topic with your team. Who thinks that it's such a good idea that hairdressers in Toronto are still closed? Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down, disagree. Right? You can tell I'm like, right? So those are silly examples, but you all can use those with any serious examples on your team. Who thinks that we're who thinks we're going to be ready to implement that new project and meet our deadline on Friday? Yes or no? Okay, so that's how you can use the thumbs up and thumbs down tools. It's super quick and it gives you a pulse check of how what they're thinking and how they're feeling. Okay, the next one is fist to 5. Okay, so fist to 5 is basically on a scale of 0 to 5. Okay, so let's use just a silly example. Okay, who is super excited or not excited at all that it's spring? Not excited, somewhat excited, kind of excited. Yeah, excited, very excited, super uber excited. Okay, so let's see your fist to 5. Okay. Adriana's like, woohoo. Cedric's only giving me a 3 for the spring. Okay, Cedric, I see you. Okay, Veronica's only 3. I'm like 5 because we're getting closer to summer. Yeah, okay, so you see how that works? Let's do one more, fist to 5. Who misses travel? Not at all. Somewhat. Oh, I see Cedric, you're like, yeah, you're the traveling guy. Megan is giving it a 10. Megan, you only have fist to 5, but she's giving it a 10. All right. And Veronica's like, no, not so much. Okay, Consuelo, what about for you?
2.
So. Okay, so that's really interesting, right? What did you notice? You may notice that an assumption that you made, like everybody misses travel. No, don't make assumptions in business. Don't make assumptions with your team, right? The fist to 5 is a really good way to check in. There may be a change management initiative that you're working on where you're gung-ho and think it's the best idea, and you do a quick fist to 5, and other people think it's horrendous. They give it a 1. What I would do then is I would say to that person who gave it a 1, okay, so I'm curious. Then you're going to ask that what question, right? What's that 1 about? Like what? I'm curious. Like what makes you think we're not going to be ready for Friday? What are your concerns? And then you can get them to unmute and start unpacking their concerns. Okay, anybody have any questions around anything we've done so far? Okay, terrific. And as I mentioned, I will be here at the end and I'm going to be available to answer any questions you have. Okay, so those are some really fun ways to interact with your team. All right, so let's move on to the next section. And we're going to look at empathy and patience. Empathy and patience. Oh, let's go back to fist to 5. Let's do a quick poll on who could use more empathy and patience. So 1 is, nah, I don't need any more empathy and patience. I'm like totes like Mother Teresa. 5 is, oh, bring it on, dial up empathy and patience, people. 3 is like, I'm okay with it. Let's do fist to 5. Okay, we got a lot of 3s. Some of you, we got some 4s and 5s. Some of you are like, oh, hell yes. I used to be a hell yes. I was the most impatient person. I've been working on that a lot. Okay, so I'm going to share these strategies that I've used personally for myself, right? So let's talk about your emotions, because empathy and patience are part of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is how my emotions impact me and the people around me. Okay, so one thing that's really important for you all to understand is emotions are not negative or positive. Did you know that? Emotions are not negative or positive. They just are. Okay. So anger is not negative. It's what you do with the anger that can sometimes make it a negative, right? Another important thing to understand about emotions, if we're looking to build things like empathy and patience, right, is when you say, I am an impatient person, that's actually not true. I don't like when we label ourselves using our emotions. What I want you to do is make that tweak. I feel impatient right now. Saying I'm an impatient person, it means you have a fixed mindset, right? You believe like, oh, that's just set in stone. That's just who I am. That's bullshit, y'all. That's not who you are. You may be super impatient in the moment, but there's other times in your life and situations where you're super patient. So step number one, no negative or positive emotions. Okay? Step number two, I feel, not I am. Okay, we good with that? That's our first step. Okay, so let's try this out for size. Everybody pop into the chat. What's an emotion you're feeling right now about leading virtually? Let's say I am frustrated. It could be I feel frustrated about it. Pop in the chat. Let's see how everybody's doing about leading virtually right now. Where are you at? How are you feeling? Make sure if you're not mute, I can hear a little bit of noise in the background. If everybody could put themselves on mute. Yeah, I feel frustrated. I feel tired. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be frustrated and tired all the time. It's just how you are right now. Yeah. I miss personal and face-to-face. Yep, seeing each other in person. Yep. And I hope that a lot of these strategies that you learned today are going to help you feel empowered, move from feeling defeated to feeling more empowered. Okay, so this is how it goes. Okay, thank you for all of that. So your emotions go in the funnel. Boom. They're neither good or bad. Okay, you then have a choice of how you're going to respond. So let's say you're feeling trapped. I'm feeling trapped by this virtual leading stuff. I have a choice. I could get on my team meetings, okay, and be like this. Oh, hi, team. Yeah, I'm feeling really trapped by these, your energy you bring is going to be down. Or a positive response. Now you can turn that into a how-to statement. Hey team, I'm feeling limited about how I'm leading virtually right now. I'm just feeling, right? Could we just do a quick brainstorm on how we can expand that? What's that going to look like? Okay, so let's look at an example. I'm feeling frustrated because someone on my team missed a deadline. So frustration comes in the funnel. Boom. This is the exact example that the executive I was talking to this morning was talking to me about. Vanessa, someone missed a deadline and I felt super frustrated because it impacts me and my client, right? So boom, emotion in the funnel. He had a choice. He did not choose to handle it with grace. He flared, okay? So I said to him, what's the impact of that? And he told me it's not good for his relationships and trust. Although he's a very beloved leader, he has moments, right? So choice number two, so the left side are sort of those negative responses and the right side of the funnel are the positive responses. So he said, Vanessa, what I should have done is notice the frustration come into the funnel, boom, right? And then chosen to ask for some feedback, to discuss it with the person, and then to create an action plan with them, okay? So when your emotion comes in the funnel, there is space between the emotion dropping and your response. And it is that space in between that I want you all to focus on. That's where you have the choice. That's where you can pause. That's where you can move from a negative response to a positive response. Okay, you need to create a pattern interrupt. So how do we create that pattern interrupt? Okay, so let's talk about 3 different ways to create the pattern interrupt. One is the breath. Okay. So everybody get comfortable in your chair. Okay, get super comfy. And what you're going to do is breathe in for 4, hold for 5, and breathe out for 7. Okay, so let's breathe in for 4, Hold for 5. Breathe out for 7. Anybody feeling different? Let's stop my share for a minute. Thumbs up feeling different, thumbs down feeling the same. Good, good. So in like 10, 12 seconds or so, we notice a difference in how we're feeling. So next time the emotion drops in the funnel, do your in for 4, hold for 5, out for 7. And then you make a better choice. Okay, I'm going to teach you. Some of you are not into the breathing thing. Okay, I'm going to teach you another one. Okay, everybody go like this with your fingers. And what I want you to do is I want you to rub your fingers together so you can actually feel the grooves. This is like breathing, y'all. You could do it like this in a meeting and nobody even knows. You like that one? I love that one. It takes me from like, woo, to like, calm and centered. Okay. Another one you could do is your toes. So just wiggle your toes. You can do this in a meeting. Yeah, that's good, Belinda, right? You do that breathing pattern in yoga, but never thought to do it during the day. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So these are amazing techniques that you can do to really help when that emotion drops in the funnel, to pattern interrupt, do your breathing, fingers or toes, and then instead of choosing to go to the left, choose to go to the right. Okay, great. Then you can make a wise choice. You know what actually happens, you all, when you have an emotion that it's called amygdala, your amygdala is getting hijacked. So you know in the olden days when we were like cave people and we ran around in the jungle and we did like some hunting and gathering and stuff, right? That was actually, the amygdala was actually there to keep us safe. That's that flight or fight response that many of you have heard of before, right? And what this does, the breathing or the fingers or the toes activity, what it does is it mitigates that fight or flight response and allows you to put in that pattern interrupt and move to the right and make a better choice. Okay, yeah, and exactly, Carol. No one's even going to know that you're ready to blow because you're taking care of your own response. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so the third one is deepen the trust in your relationships. Okay, so trust is super, super, super important. In 2012, Watson Wyatt did a study and they showed that high trust organizations actually outperform low trust by 286%. And so what this means is that trust is not fluffy. Trust is not a nice to have. For all of you as leaders, trust is critically important. There's a really good book. Has anybody here read the book called The Speed of Trust? It's by Stephen M.R. Covey. Okay, I would definitely recommend it. It's called The Speed of Trust. And in this book, Stephen talks about, I'm going to share with you Stephen Covey. This is Stephen Covey, not the one who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is his son, Stephen M.R. Covey. Right. And he says trust is it's not fluffy, right? It's a hearted economic driver. And what Stephen Covey talks about in this book, what I love about this book is he makes trust super tangible. So he talks about 2 components of trust, character and competence. So I want you to think about why character and competence both need to be there in order for you to trust somebody or in order for you to build high trust relationships. So character, and I will give you behaviors aligned with each of these specific areas. But if you think about it this way, you may know someone who's super high on the character side and has a lot of integrity and it's fun to be around and very respectful, but they don't meet deadlines. Okay, so that's no good. Now, you may know somebody who, on the flip side, is super competent, meets deadlines, actually achieves their goals. Maybe they're in sales and brings in more sales than anyone else. But on the character side, 2 thumbs down, right? They're not respectful. They're not loyal. They're not building those high trust relationships. So you need to have both character and competence. And I want all of you leaders to start thinking about this Am I high both on character and competence? And I'm going to break them down for you. So in terms of character, again, this is from, I'm going to give you very high level because this is one of the best tools that I've learned on trust. Stephen Covey breaks these down in greater detail in his book as well. Character is about talking straight. Some of you don't talk straight in that you're so nice and you don't want to give that straightforward feedback. So you kind of sugarcoat things and talk around the bush a little bit. No, you're minimizing trust, right? Talk straight, be respectful, be transparent, right? Leadership is about transparency. It's okay to have good times and bad times. Share those times with your team. Righting wrongs is one of my favorite because what that means is when I make a mistake, I fix it. Okay. So I had sent out an email to a client last week that was missing some information and he said, "You're missing information." I said, "You were right. I apologize. I will include that." And when I send out the email to your team, I'll make sure I'm not missing the information. Owning it. Owning when you make a mistake builds trust. I could have said, "What? Well, why should I include that information? Like, who are you to tell me what it hurt?" No. Okay. Being loyal builds trust. Then we talk about competence. Competence is delivering results, getting better, right? I'm improving all the time. Now, let's all talk about confronting reality. Okay, let me stop my share again. And we're going to do a fist to 5. How good are you at confronting reality, which means giving constructive feedback? So 0 is, Vanessa, honestly, I really avoid it. I'm like super nervous to give constructive feedback. And 5 is, yeah, Vanessa, I'm all over it. I've practiced. I'm good. I'm direct. I'm giving really good constructive feedback. Okay, fist to 5. Constructive feedback. Okay, so we've got a range. I'm not seeing any zeros. So we've got a range of, maybe 2s up to 5. This is definitely an area if you're, in the 2 zone, 1 or 2 zone, I want you to really practice this. Make an effort to give feedback because when you avoid it, you're actually diminishing your trust. Clarifying expectations is another important one for leaders. So what you need to do is tell people what you expect because then they know what they need to deliver and it increases trust. And being accountable, holding yourself and your team accountable, okay? Then there's 3 that are both character and competence. So listening, extending trust, and keeping commitments. So the better you listen, the more you're actually building trust. And some leaders need to focus more on listening and less on talking. I have a leader that talks a lot, and I always say to him, in your meeting tomorrow, I want you to talk less and listen more. Okay, anybody else need to focus on that? It is amazing what you can pick up from people when you talk less as a leader and listen more. Okay, keeping commitments is the number one. Number 1, you say you're going to do it, do it. I'm going to get that to you Friday at noon, get it to them by Friday at noon. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the slide in a minute. But before I do, I want you to think about how all of these 13 trust behaviors now impact your relationships. Each of you in every single relationship that you have a trust account. And when think about one person on your team, okay? Can you picture that person? Okay, so picture that person on your team, you've got a trust account with them. So when you're transparent with that person, what you're doing is you're actually putting a deposit into the trust account of that relationship. When you clarify your expectations with that person, you're putting a deposit in your trust account. When you're confronting reality, you have that tough conversation with them. You're actually putting another deposit in the trust account. And if you're using those 13 behaviors all the time, what you're doing is you're building equity in that relationship, right? So that when you make a mistake, which you will, why? Well, because you're human and we're all human and we all make mistakes. You're going to make a withdrawal, the relationship won't crumble. So I want you to all to start really thinking about, am I putting deposits into all my relationship? This is really important now during this pandemic when anxiety is high, stress is high. I personally am living with my husband and 2 teenage boys and don't see anyone else. And, You know, things on the home front can get a little tense. The eye rolling in my house, y'all, new level. New level. I can't even, but that's a different topic for a different day, right? So I have to constantly be putting deposits into my trust account with my teenagers, believe me. Okay, so which one are you going to focus on? Pop into the chat. What's going to help you notch up your leadership practice? Take it to the next level. Is it from the character side? Is it from the competence side? Or is it one that's in the both section? Let's see if there's some trends going here. Pop in the chat and let's see what everyone wants to focus on. And again, if you want more detail on this, pick up Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust, or you can even pop on YouTube and do a search for Stephen Covey. Okay, so we've got some listening, clarifying expectations, confronting reality, clarifying expectations. So a lot of listening and clarifying and confronting reality. Those seem to be the top three for everybody. Okay, what else? Keep going. Talking straight and transparency, listening more. Love it, y'all. Great, great. Yeah, listening builds so much trust. It's terrific, terrific. Good. Some of you have a combination of two. Terrific. Okay. This is the last tool I'm going to share with you today. So I'm going to end the formal part of this presentation. How could I not end International Women's Day with a slide from Maya Angelou? I mean, isn't that so fitting? Y'all, I want you to do the best you can until you know better. Can you do that for me? And when you know better, you do better. Love, 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 love that quote. So now you all know a little bit better about something. Type in the chat, what do you know better? What are you going to do better based on today? What do you now know better that you're going to do better? Let's see what was most helpful for you. And then I'm going to share with you, while you're doing that, what do you know better now? What can you do better at as a leader, either virtually or non-virtually, in your relationships and the way you interact with your team? Yes, the annotate tool, super, super fun. Listening more. Okay, keep it going. I'm reading in the chat. So while you're typing those in the chat, I have been in conversation. Brenda, this was, I think, a year and a half ago we talked about this.
I know. We were
Right,
supposed to
Brenda?
have, we were supposed to have a live event and then COVID happened.
Yeah, we have had to postpone this 5-module Women in Leadership program for a year and a half. Okay. And so today we wanted to give you a taste of what it'll be like to learn together. The fact that I'm high energy. I really care about your learning. I want you to take your leadership. And sorry for the men who are on the call today. Thank you for coming, by the way. Yay. Thank you for supporting us. We really appreciate it. So I've worked with Brenda and Barbara and some of the other volunteers at Women in Food Management. And we've put together a program. We're going to open it up to my other clients as well, not just to members with WFIM, but for members, we're going to give you a discount, and I'll share the price with you. Mm-hmm. But what we really wanted to do, especially now in this crazy time, is give you an opportunity to learn more and really take your leadership to the next level. So it's going to be, the program's going to be 5 modules. The first one is about how do I rise as a woman at work? Module 2 is you're going to go through the DISC profile. I don't know if anyone's done the DISC profile before, but you're going to have an opportunity to do the DISC, assess your work style. Oh, and for those of you who wrote, I need to, from the trust behaviors, dial up the ability to have those crucial conversations with people. That's all we're focusing on for module 3. How to give feedback, how to have those conversations, how to make it really developmental and effective. We're going to do a whole section on coaching and building a high-performing team. So these are the dates. So we thought the cadence of, each session's 2 hours. Each session's over Zoom. And we thought the cadence of every 2 weeks would be really nice because it gives you an opportunity to learn something and then apply it. Learn something and then apply it. So at the end of the 5 modules, this is what you're going to know how to do, right? And it's going to be a small group. The reason we want to keep it small, say, I'm hoping about 10 to 12 people, really make this so life-changing and motivating and inspiring for the women that are there. If you're feeling low or uninspired, or like you're missing community, I want to take this opportunity to create a community of women who go through this program together to really learn and grow and support each other.
And it's in a very safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what you're going to get out of the program. I know you can read the screen, so I'm not going to read it for you. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you want to find out more, you can go onto my website, mosaicpd.com, click on the events tab, or you can email me. I can send you the brochure with more information. We can set up a call to talk about it. If this at all sounds interesting, just reach out. Can you do that and say, hey, Vanessa, that kind of interests me, but I need to know more about it. Not a problem. Okay. So the price for the whole program for members of WFIM is $1,000. That includes all 5 modules, all of the workbooks, your disc profile, and then it's going to be $1,200 for everyone else. So we really did want to discount it for you because, you know, I love you all. You're such an important community to me. I've been working with you for, 4 or 5 years already. And I'm really invested in your growth and your development. So that's all in terms of the session for today. I hope it was helpful. It was so lovely to see all of you. I am going to now stay around, and if anybody has any questions, if anyone has any comments, again, I'm going to keep reading what you wrote in the chat about what you learned today. But thank you all. Happy International Women's Day. And
yeah, I wanted to thank everyone for coming, and we got so much out of this. Oh my God. So much appreciation and gratitude. And thank you also to our volunteers, because this was a lot of work to put together. Thank you to you, Vanessa, for just putting your heart and soul in everything that you present and share with us. We grow with you every single time. And this program is going to be life-changing, I'm sure, for the select few. So take advantage of it. We'll send a copy of the brochure out too through admin@wfim.ca as well. Thank you to our sponsors and our volunteers, as I said, and so much gratitude and support. So if some of you have to leave, you'll get the recording. And then I just had to say thank you to everyone as they were heading out, and then the others can stay behind. So yeah. Have a wonderful rest of the International Women's Day, everyone. Back to you, Vanessa.